Welcome to this week's Cattle Call. I'm Susan Littlefield. An interesting start to the week as we see a bit of a comeback in the market trade, but really, we're going to focus on what the fundamentals are. We're getting back to whatever this normal is. We've got cash that could see steady even higher yet this week. We've been talking about adjusting of the basis with Brad for the last couple of weeks. We'll see. Are we there or do we have more to go? Add to it the outside market influences that we all know about whenever you turn on the radio or on your evening news, all having its toll as well. As we welcome Brad Kooima, he's with Kooima and Varlick out of Sioux Center, Iowa. Let's start out about these fundamentals. Are we starting to get back to some sort of normal with the processing and movement of cattle?
Boy, do I love that word too, Susan. Huh? It's been a while. Normal.
Yeah.
Dating all the way back to really August of 19 when we had the Holcomb fire. I've got some of the folks that I know, in the commercial side of the industry that are using that word actually normal. They're getting a normal population to come to work. They're able to depend on transportation in terms of moving meat. You've got a fairly robust still, even though seasonally right now, this is the time of year where you probably see a bit of a slowdown in some of the meat movement. But, and that's natural. But in terms of being worried about, being able to feed the supply chain, no. So, yes, it's great. And the other side of that is that I think the packer's delighted. He's making plenty of money. He can buy cattle like he likes. The cattle are of excellent condition. Some of that because the weather's been so mild that the producer's got great performance. The producer's happy with it, Susan. And we're even making a little bit of money. I mean, who would have thought that we could actually make this thing work finally, right? So, that usually that kind of a healthy thing from front end to tail usually is good. And because I don't think anybody's fighting the market. Cattle are big. But that's because the weather's been so good. But we can't wait to sell them. They're making some money, and the Packers making plenty of money. So, I think the thing if it was just cattle news, and it's not, but if it was just cattle news, I think the market's set up pretty good this week and the weeks following.
So, having said that, are we going to see cash at least steady, or could we see a couple buck move on this week?
I think all of steady, in my opinion, and I think the Packers going to try to kill that big 660 or so. I really think, and a little bit of weather on some of the cattle here. I wouldn't be at all surprised that we can't be $1 higher, maybe $2. I think we're going to start out here asking 145. We got 143 last week, and we'll see where the chips fall. It's only Tuesday yet.
What about for this basis? You and I have talked about this over the last couple of weeks where we're at on this basis. Do we still have some more adjusting to go?
Maybe a little bit. I don't think so much in the February. We did see a handful of deliveries early in the delivery period where there was a couple people that thought it was worthwhile to deliver. Kind of questionable, I thought, even at that time. I certainly don't think that delivery is in their best interest now from a basis standpoint. But we had April like about almost $6 over the fed cattle here about 20 days ago. It's like the 2nd of February, I think we were about 6 over. Today we got down to 2.25. So a big adjustment, moving that April closer to the February, and also with the increasing cash market, moving the April closer to the cash. The only reason I bring this up is I think it's much healthier for whether you think futures are the dumbest thing that anybody invented or not. When you have the futures market at a premium, what does that do? That makes you pay more than you want to for feeder cattle, right? It also has a tendency to make you carry the cattle more. Like you think, well, look at that. The market's going to get better. I'll just make the cattle bigger, right? Now, I think, as you've narrowed that up, you've disincentived the producer to do that. I think that's healthy. I could see us doing a little more of that. Also, the component of that, Susan, is that April cattle, guess what? Funds trade our market. And sometimes the funds are more important than any cattle fundamental you can make up. And the next movement here, unfortunately, is going to be that the funds are going to move some of their long positions backwards. And that's been going on a little bit for a couple of days. You could certainly see it today with the way the April-June relationship did. And you could certainly see it as well on Friday. So you're going to catch some fund selling in the Aprils, no matter what the news is.
What about, speaking of news, what about these outside market influences we're seeing? Russia, Ukraine, the economy. It just seems like there's a lot of fingers in this cattle pot that could affect our outcome.
You're absolutely right. It's a great question. A liken it to going to SeaWorld, right? The first 2 rows, if you sit there, you might get wet. If you trade cattle or feed cattle, every day that you go home, there's a chance that there could be some news to make you be sharply lower in the morning. Cattle extremely sensitive. It's always been viewed as a elastic demand item. That's what that's the excuse everybody uses. So yes, we are very prone to. I know I'm watching the stock market, worried about tomorrow morning's opening. If we don't, straighten up here a little bit, stocks are really tanking here this last while here. What the ramifications of this inflation, if that, certainly a lot of people thinking that, this is going to create recession to a certain degree, depending on how severe. And then you throw in the whole global economic geopolitical thing that's going on, that certainly is going to have impact on our economy and our confidence. Yeah, unfortunately, Susan, the old axiom is uncertainty is usually bearish cattle. And I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be that negative guy here,
Right.
but I also don't want to be dumb about it either. Pay attention. These are big price levels. We haven't been here. We haven't had August cattle this high since 2014. Okay. So we got to be sensitive to the idea that risk management still is part of the market.
All right. Lots of great things we looked at. Thanks so much for joining us this week, Brad.
Welcome.
As always, want to remind folks that commodity futures and options do involve a substantial risk of loss, are not suitable to all investors. And that's this week's Cattle Call on the Rural Radio Network.